Central nervous system meninges of brain and spinal cord are surrounded by 3 layers of tissue, the meninges, found between skull and brain. Layers include Dura Matter, Arachnoid Matter, Pia Matter. Dura Matter outer layer of brain. Itself it has 2 layers. Outer layer form periosteum of inner surface of skull. Inner layer provides protection to brain. Inner layer sweeps inwards between cerebral hemispheres to form falx cerebri, between 2 cerebellar hemispheres to form falx cerebelli, and between cerebrum and cerebellum to form tentorium cerebelli. Venous blood from the brain drains into venous sinuses between 2 layers of dura matter. Spinal dura matter extends from foramen magnum to the second sacral vertebra. Local anesthetics or analgesics to relieve pain may be injected to epidural space. Arachnoid matter lies between dura and pia matter. Above it is subdural space and below it is subarachnoid space. It contains cerebrospinal fluid, helps in the formation of falx cerebri, falx cerebelli and tentorium cerebelli. Pia matter, a delicate layer of connective tissue containing many blood vessels. Adheres to brain completely. Continues downward to spinal cord beyond the end of cord. It continues as the filum terminale. Ventricles of brain. Brain contains 4 irregular shaped cavities or ventricles containing cerebrospinal fluid (CSF). They are right and left ventricles, third ventricle, fourth ventricle. Lateral ventricles lie within the cerebral hemispheres, 1 on each side of median plane, separated from each other by a thin membrane called septum lucidum. They communicate with the third ventricle by interventricular foramina, also called foramen of Monro. Third ventricle found below the lateral ventricle communicates with fourth ventricle by a canal, the cerebral aqueduct. Fourth ventricle, a diamond-shaped cavity situated below and behind the third ventricle. It is continuous below with the spinal cord and communicate with the subarachnoid space. CSF enters the subarachnoid space from fourth ventricle. Cerebrospinal fluid (CSF) is secreted into each ventricle of the brain by choroid plexus. Choroid plexus is surrounded by ependymal cells. CSF passes back into the blood through tiny diverticula called arachnoid villi, which project into venous sinuses. CSF completely surrounds brain and spinal cord. It is secreted at a rate of about 0.5 ml/minimum by 720 ml/day. CSF pressure may be measured using the vertical tube attached to a lumbar needle inserted into subarachnoid space above or below fourth lumbar vertebra. If brain is enlarged by hemorrhage or tumor, some amount of CSF can be drawn from here to reduce pressure. CSF consists of water, mineral salts, glucose, plasma proteins, albumin and globulin, creatinine and urea. Functions: supports and protect the brain and spinal cord, act as shock absorber between the brain and skull. It keeps the brain and spinal cord moist. There is exchange of nutrients and waste products between CSF and nerve cells.